So, I have something that's gonna probably make everyone that hears this just go, yikes. Because after finding out myself today, everything falls into place, everything makes sense now, and now I understand. Now I understand about some of the reasons of why this season of One Punch Man has some issues with a certain department. So, this dude right here is a sound director of this season of One Punch Man Season 2. Now, when you see this name, you see this dude's face, you're probably like, who is this? I've never heard of him. Well, this dude is rather famous, actually. This dude is famous for the Berserk anime's sound effects. Yeah. You heard that right. You can check it up. Go to My Anime List yourself and go check it up if you don't believe me. But yes, this dude is responsible for the Berserk anime's sound effects. I'm not talking about like the old Berserk. I'm talking about the newer Berserk that came in these last few years that I wish I could just forget. Basically, the clang, you remember the clang sound effect that you constantly heard that sounded like pots and pans being bashed together when Guts swung his sword against skeletons and stuff right at the beginning, or just that sound effect that carried on? That same sound director is the sound director of this season of One Punch Man. Now everything, it makes sense now. It makes sense now why the sound direction of this episode is just so freaking trash. It makes so much sense now. And why just the sound and visuals, like with the audio or whatever, just seem very off compared to what's going on screen. It's because the sound director just... yeah. So, anyways, with that out of the way, this episode. I know for a fact many are not going to want to hear it, because it's common now, and it's easy to pick on the One Punch Man episode, or series, in general. Like, it's easy to pick on the anime, because just not many people really like it. And as you all know, I've been wanting to be fair with One Punch Man Season 2. I've wanted to be fair with it. I've given it many chances and many passes in certain areas because, well, it's a new staff, forced production, like they're having to speed it up and all that, and I've given some leeway. However, with the past few episodes, it has been getting better. Like, you know, the 2 episodes ago and then last week's episode, it was really good. The episodes were getting really good. However, this episode is a major step down. I say even worse than the first episode of One Punch Man Season 2. One Punch Man Season 2 Episode 1 was okay, but this episode was just outright bad on so many levels, and I'm going to get into it. I'm going to explain. I'm not just outright hating on Season 2 just to hate on it. I will give reasons for why I do not like this episode. So, to start off, this episode, it did have a lot going on. There was a lot going on from scene to scene. And so if you are someone that wants the adaptation of One Punch Man properly, like in terms of just adapting from the manga, then you pretty much got what you wanted from this episode. It did adapt pretty much the entirety of the manga. However, this is a perfect example that just adapting the manga into an anime doesn't always work out. There is still some flaws. Like, for instance, let's take for an example, One Piece. The anime of One Piece recently has been very good. Like, Whole Cake Island and all that has been really good. Before that, back in Dressrosa and back in Fishman Island arc, when we first got into the New World, the One Piece anime kind of reached a downward spiral of, like, meh quality. And the reason why is because Toei Animation, they were adapting the manga properly, but they were not really giving it that love, that oomph that it needed to really prosper and excel above the manga. And that's basically what I can say about this episode, is that even though it did adapt pretty much everything from the manga, it felt like a lesser version. Not just because of art style, because, I mean, there's just no way that this anime will ever compete with the beauty of the art in the manga. Even season 1, it had so many times that it really couldn't even compete with the manga either. So, it's an impossible feat. That is almost an impossible feat. You have to literally be an animation god just to be able to beat the level of quality in the manga in terms of the art style consistently throughout the anime. So, it's just something that's not possible. However, that's not the issue I have. The issue I have is that even though they adapted the manga properly into the anime, it felt like a lesser version in terms of spirit. It felt like it lost something. It lost life. It was a lifeless shell. It felt like it was just pieces thrown together, mashed together. It's like putting Lego blocks together real easily, like the tutorial or something of something, getting it done, and then just moving on. It's like they got it done, but they didn't really want to go the extra mile and finish it and touch it up and make it a beautiful, beautiful episode. Like, they didn't want to really just give that creative life to it. And that's basically what this is. It feels like a soulless episode. It feels like something that was just put out that follows the manga, but did not have what some series have, passion thrown into it. And it's not necessarily the animator's fault. The reason why it's not is because of the production. The production of this series is just a huge mess. It's not fundamentally the animator's fault, it's the higher-ups a part of this production. It's the production committee. It's the people that were in charge of getting this anime off the ground in the first place. It's their fault. And it's not necessarily the animators, because they just were given a horrible timing to get this done, and they barely even had like the first 2 to 3 episodes done when the anime was coming out for us to watch. So when you factor all these things, it makes sense why this episode's bad. But it saddens me how soulless this felt. It did not feel like anything from the previous episodes. When you go back a few episodes, there is some soul put into this series. Like, you can feel it. You can feel the passion and how JC staff were trying really hard to make this anime work, to make it beautiful, to make it, live up to fans' expectations. They were trying really hard, and I could sense it. I think many of us can agree we felt that passion from the starter episodes of Season 2. But when you look at this episode, it's missing. It's missing that. It's missing in so many areas. Like, the Metal Bat and Garo fight. Oh my god, it was so bad. It was a really bad adaptation. Like, they adapted the manga, like I said, but the way it was done, it just was so rushed. Like, they didn't put the extra little in-between scenes that would make it very beautiful and just spice it up. They just wanted to get through the fight scene and get to the next scene as quickly as possible. It's kind of like the, storyboard writer that was, like, doing this. They pushed the pedal to the floor to get this episode out. Like, they wanted to go through the content very quickly just to get to the next scene. That's basically what that felt like. The entire Metal Bat versus Garo just felt like that. It felt like they just wanted to rush through the content to get to the next scene. And that's kind of how the entirety of this episode felt. Rushing through the content just to get to the next scene. One scene to the next with really no proper build-up and nothing to really establish any emotions with these characters. That's basically what happened. Because when you think about the later half of the episode, it is a monster invasion. These monsters are invading and causing a lot of havoc all around the world, destroying cities, and there's a crisis going on, but it doesn't really feel like a crisis because just the way we're going from one scene to the next, it doesn't really feel that large scale. Like, if you go back to the ending of Season 1, when Boros first arrived and you saw the zoom out of the ship, how massive it was, how it covered over the entirety of the city, you had that sense of dread and like, holy crap, this is a massive threat. But nothing like that. Nothing from this episode really gave that illusion like, oh man, humanity is at, in their dire straits right now. Like, they're about to die. Like, everybody's about to die if something isn't done. When is Saitama going to get out there and save people? That's basically what you would hope would, will happen. The feeling you would have, but it really isn't the case because of just how they were going from one scene to the next. But getting back into the Metal Bat and Garo stuff, here is an easy way to explain this. The car scene. There is a scene in the manga to when Metal Bat is swinging and the force of impact from his weapon actually shakes the cars. The cars start to shake and rumble. And you could easily see this in the manga. I'll probably have the manga panel on screen for you to see for yourself. It's very easy to see, and you're like, okay, I can see that. But when you compare it to the anime, there is a brief scene, but you can't really tell because it's kind of like the screen just shaking, and it's not really the cars shaking. You don't really get that sense of movement from the cars. And that's kind of how majority of these fight scenes turn out. Even if there is some good animation that happens throughout these fights, like Garo Metal Bat, there's so much ghosting going on with the characters where it's like, you know, images being mashed together and going into the next, like merging and all that, that it looks really weird. And they're spending more time on still frames, shaking of the frame, to the backgrounds looking very bland, like solid red. There's just no life in these scenes, and they're just a lesser version of the manga. Like, they lack movement. Like, the manga shows more movement, and it's a still image, than the anime that actually has many images running alongside of each other. So, that says a lot. That says a lot about this episode. Now, getting into the other details, let's talk about Garo, okay? Garo as a character, we can get a little bit more build up to him. He is someone that obviously he wants to see monsters win, but you see him do something that kind of goes against what he's talked about in last week's episode. Basically, him wanting to be a monster that actually wins, and, you know, wanting to see monsters win. When you see the man, like, hit that one monster and hurt him really bad, he got back up, obviously, but Garo thought he was done. And for Garo to do something like that, it shows that there's more to his character. He's not someone that's just, you know, working with the monsters and wants to be with the monsters. He has his own code, his own morals and all that. Like, he doesn't hurt children. That's one of the big things we noticed. If he truly was an outright monster, he would hurt children. But he doesn't. You even see in this episode, he lets Metal Bat go when, you know, the sister jumps in. Which, you know, if he truly was a monster and trying to prove himself, he would have attacked the girl right there, but he didn't. So there is more to his character than meets the eye. There is more depth to it. And I really love Garo as a character. There's so much mystery to him. It's one of the reasons why he is really building up to be a fantastic villain, and why I really cannot wait to see where he goes as a character. But, let's get over into the martial arts tournament. So the martial arts tournament, it's very simple. Basically, Saitama, he finally gets into the tournament, and he just one-shots the dude, slaps him to the ground, and they just think the dude is completely weak, and Saitama just fluked. It was a fluke that he won because just the guy he was fighting was so weak that it really wasn't even a fight to begin with. So it's pretty funny, because of how strong Saitama is, people actually think that he's just weak, but the opponent he's fighting is just extremely weak. Like, they will never stand a chance anywhere else. So that's pretty much about it. It's an okay episode. It has, obviously, its problems, and I do hope, before everything's said and done, that there is more life put into this series, but from how the production schedule is obviously kind of going downhill at this point, I highly doubt it. But we'll see where it goes. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoy my content, please subscribe. If you like this video, please leave a like, and if you want to get notified for whenever I upload a video, please click the bell icon down below, and with that, Chibi out.